All right. Hello, everyone. Pleasure to be here. Thanks so much to everyone for being here, and pleasure to have this opportunity to speak to you all. We're going to talk a bit about developer productivity today and what Azure API Management Platform is doing to enhance developer productivity. We're going to let's start with the agenda. So we're going to talk about the different aspects of a API developer lifecycle. What are some of the challenges there from a developer standpoint? What are some of the patterns we see today, especially with AI, right? How is the lifecycle transforming? And then we're going to talk a bit about Azure API management. Specifically, we're going to understand the platform and what investments we have made to accelerate the developer productivity. And we're going to show a few demos. We're going to talk about an end-to-end scenario. Alex is going to come up and talk about an order processing API. We're going to build the API using some of the available APIs in the marketplace today. And we're going to show how to publish it into the portal. And then Christoph is going to come here and talk about customizing developer portals, right? So let's start with some of the key challenges, right? So let's understand the developer lifecycle and then talk through some of the challenges. So when a developer starts, the first thing they do is to what is available out there? What can I reuse? A recent study by Stoplight says that 55% of the developers today said it was very hard for them to find the right API. Why is that? Because the APIs were not available that easily. There was no central catalog. And people were not able to find the right ones which met their business need. Moving to the next step in the process, as a developer, I want to get the job done. I want to make sure that the API that I'm building actually works. I don't know what the design standards are. I actually go ahead and build the API, and then I find out later that it was not compliant to a design standard. The API platform team tells me that it's great that you build this API, but it's not complying to a set of design standards. This is where AI can help a lot. This is where Alex is going to demo how, using GitHub Copilot agent, we have made some investments to fundamentally improve the design process for the API. And once the API is built out, obviously securing it, making sure that it is secured properly. This is where Anish talked about some of the investments we have made here, right? The applications feature or the OAuth token validation, things we have built. We were going to talk a bit about how we are addressing some of the challenges there. What are the challenges today with respect to having an API where the version that I'm building is breaking an existing version? And that creates a challenge for downstream developers. And with some of the solutions thereof, right? And finally, documentation, right? Documentation, you want to make sure that the API docs are continuously updated. They are not inconsistent. And these are some of the challenges today with developers face today. And we're going to talk about what investments we are making there. So we introduced this slide about in the last session. API management service has been there for about 10 years. It's a highly mature service. We process about 3 trillion transactions today per month. A couple of years ago, we introduced the API Center, which basically enables us to centrally govern and track APIs. During the demos today, we will show how these services combined together basically will enable some of the customer use cases. So I talked a bit about this slide already, but let me go into an in-depth overview, right? Discovery, the first step in the process. We will show how using GitHub Copilot agent in API Center, developers can discover APIs with one prompt. We will show you how using the same agent, GitHub Copilot agent, you can easily get access to the design rules. We will show how you can easily build API through one click. What we will show you is how we cut the development time by 70 to 80%, and we're going to show a demo of that. And then we will show how we can secure that API. We're going to show a demonstration of our applications feature. We're going to show how using OAuth you can secure the API, and then you can publish, you can use Azure Copilot to create a policy on the fly. We will demonstrate the rate limiting policy and show how we can ensure that the policy is compliant, how we can API managers can then go ahead and customize a portal and publish this API. So we're going to go through the whole life cycle. And then finally, we're going to talk a bit about the investments we are making in monitoring and observability. Some of the investments we're making with our SRE agent, ensuring site reliability, ensuring API gateway is reliable, and what investments we're making thereof. And finally, we're going to talk about the whole customization of the developer portal end to end. And during this whole life cycle, we will see some of the challenges that we talked about earlier. How are they getting resolved? So with that, I'm going to invite Alex to walk us through the first demo.
Thank you. So here in this demo, we will see now how we apply AI to have better developer productivity when building the APIs. We will start with the discovery phase that Srikant was telling about, because we have already APIs that exist in my enterprise. And then I want to create a new API, but the API should resemble with the rest of my API ecosystem, right? So that's, I will apply that as some kind of a grounding the new API on the existing API portfolio. And then we will check that API that is compliant with my rules and API style guides that I have defined within the enterprise, okay? Has anyone created an open API spec using an AI tool like ChatGPT already? I see a few, okay? So we can go to the ChatGPT and say, generate an open API spec for this, and that requirements, right? We can do this today. But the difference, and we will see in the demo, is that it will not have context about my API portfolio, about my API style guides, and that's of course key for me to have control about how that API is designed. And that's what I will show here in the demo. Let me put this right. Okay, so I'm in Visual Studio Code, okay, and I've installed the API Center extension. It's an extension available on Visual Studio Code. I'm browsing for the existing APIs, and I can see that I have here the payment API already deployed, okay, and then I open the GitHub Copilot in agent mode, a new mode that allows me, to have better responses. And I put this prompt, find an open API spec for the payment API and store that API. So you can see here a bunch of different interactions, and you see this using API Center, meaning that the agent is accessing in real time API Center information to search and to extract the APIs. So at this point, it extracted the API, the open API from the payments API, and automatically I see some linting issues on the bottom about some things that are not correct with my API, okay? But then the agent is proactive, saying, okay, I will fix the linting issues that I have identified for you automatically, and it started to address these linting errors automatically. Behind the scenes, we are using Spectral Rules. That is a very popular open source linting engine, and this is using the Spectral Rules to understand what are the linting issues and fix them automatically for us, okay? So now is updating the file for us and formatting the file, and now I will see that the issues, they have all gone, the API is totally compatible, and it saved the API. It provides me a nice summary of what the agent did, and then I can keep the file or continue iterating. And now I will ask to generate a new API, my order processing API, and make it also compliant based on this existing payment API. Okay, so it starts to say that it will generate the API and will get the spectral rules in order to apply the API style guides and make the API compliant as well. Okay, so now it's creating my new order processing API with the Open API specification, again, based on the existing style guide and using the payment API as a reference. So it's now building the API. It will take a little bit of time, and then I will see the new API being generated. While it's doing this, I can see the files that were changed over time. And the files, we see an icon on the top, meaning that the agent mode is working on the files. So I can see that hint from that. So it provides a summary about which operations were created for my order processing API, and it looks okay. I will now search for the operations that were automatically added, and I'm interested as well on a batch operation, like adding new orders in batch. And since it's not there, I will iterate over the API that was created in order to add additional operations. Because of course, in the first iteration, in the first prompt, it will not get it 100% correct. I will need to iterate to add additional operations. So now it will review the created API and will add an additional operation that in this case is the batch. Of course, the model is able to understand if it's a batch, is to add orders in bulk, and then it will review the file. You can see this nice effect, reviewing the file completely, fixing the linting errors, and adding this new batch. Okay, so it's now ensuring that the API is still compliant, and we see the new endpoint with the route for the batch being created. I will now keep the files. The files are now stored in my workspace folder, and if I search for batch, I should see this new batch operation. Okay, so my API was created. I can review here the API, and I can see the files on the file system in this workspace. Feels like the magician that we saw yesterday. Feels a little bit like magic, right? Because with just a simple prompt, we have the API generated. What's different from the experience that I started with something like ChatGPT is that with this extension, we are grounding in our API portfolio, we are grounding in our API style guides and the linting rules that we can customize, okay? These linting rules that we have on Spectral, we can create our own organizational linting rules according to our own standards. So what we see in a lot of circumstances is that customers, they start with the default ones or with the ones provided by Microsoft, and then they extend to add additional information. For example, you notice here during the demo that he was complaining about the contact information was not filled in, right? And it's a simple thing, but sometimes we see this a lot, right? Then we don't know exactly who is the owner or who is the point of contact if there is something bad with the API design or handling that API in production. So that's ensuring the right API quality. And now let's imagine that I want to continue this process of using this API and developing the API. And I want to push this order processing API to a Git repository. Okay, we have been seeing this kind of pattern being applied by a lot of customers as well, having a Git repository as the source of truth that stores not only the source code for the application, but also the open API spec that the applications will use, right? Because it has the right version control mechanisms and has the right workflow mechanisms for enable different developers to collaborate on the APIs. So in this case, I'm using GitHub and GitHub Actions, but we can use other tools as well. Doesn't matter. It's just a workflow. What's interesting in this case, the workflow is triggered automatically when I push the changes into the Git repository. And to deploy in API management, we will use infrastructure as code, okay? In the same way that we have seen this API first trend rising, we see also customers starting with infrastructure as code to automate things early in the process instead of using ClickOps, going into the portal and doing things manually, right? Because we need a lot of effort to configure that. And when we want to scale, not to create one API, but maybe tens, thousands of APIs, automating, it's our friend here. So we are applying platform engineering concepts here with infrastructure as code. In this case, I'm using Bicep, but we support Terraform as well and ARM so that we can build this with the infrastructure as code of your choice. And then in the end, we will create a mocking policy in order to allow me to test the API easily, even before the backend team implemented the API. Because I want to make sure that my API design is working properly. And what's interesting about this developer productivity as well is that now I can release the API to my front-end developers and to my back-end developers, and they will work in parallel to make the developer productivity even better. So let's jump to the demo. I'm in the same Visual Studio Code with the API setter extension that I've shown already, and also the Azure API management extension. So I have both extensions installed, and here is my API that I've created with GitHub Copilot. I have the API created, and the next step is going into the Visual Studio Code and push these changes into Git. Okay, there is this stars mechanism in the changes box that instead of typing, the AI will figure out what are the changes. Okay, everyone loves this feature. What are the changes introduced so that me as a developer, I have less effort. So I will commit and push, in this case, just to the main branch. Typically, you will not do this. You will create like a pull request, and then someone will approve the pull request. Here we are just pushing to main. And automatically, a new workflow will be triggered with GitHub Actions. It's interesting that with the power of extensions, we are always in the flow. We never leave Visual Studio Code. We don't need to go to the Azure portal or to GitHub. Everything is happening in my Visual Studio Code environment so that me as a developer, I stay in the flow and I feel more productive. So the workflow is running. It will take a while. In the meanwhile, we can see that the API center, we just have one API, and here in API management, we have just Echo API and two products. That is the default product, the starter, and the limited products that they are created automatically. So now it will take some time to deploy. It started already this API management deploy step using Bicep. What it's basically doing is to apply this infrastructure as code and deploying that. And the nice thing about using this technique is that if you go to the Azure portal, you can see the deployment and you can see the actions of the deployment being rolled out. Okay? So it provides traceability and audit on the deployment that we are doing here. Okay? So it will deploy an API management, and then the next step is to register on API Center. Interesting here as well, to register in API Center, we could do this automatically with syncing API Center and API management, but I prefer here to register manually, because this way I have full control on the metadata that I will provide to the API. Okay? API Center is very strong on allowing me to catalog what the APIs are doing, and this is what I can do with this technique. So I'm refreshing. I see that it finished in less than 2 minutes, so it was pretty quick. And now I go into the API management and I refresh, and I can see that my order processing API was just added into my API management instance automatically. And if I go to the products, I see a new product that was added as well. And I added this order processing API under the e-commerce product. So it was bundled with the e-commerce product. Okay? Now if I go into the operations, I can see the different operations that were created. And I can see that the list orders operation is here. And I will try to test this operation right here from Visual Studio Code. Okay? I could use the Azure portal to test, but again, I want to stay in the flow. But I got an internal server error, okay, not a good sign, but in this case it's normal because I didn't implement anything in this API. I just deployed on API management without any backend, okay? But now I will go to open the policy for this API, and again, using GitHub Copilot, in this case with the inline editing capability, I will do the prompt and ask to add a mock policy, okay? So the GitHub Copilot will generate a mock response for me. In this case, it generates a little bit more than what I need, okay? And I just remove this section here, and I have the mock response policy. With this extension, I can just save, and the policy is updated automatically in API management. Okay, so I don't need to leave Visual Studio Code. If I send the request again, okay, I get a 200 response with the mocking response that they got this response from the open API specification that was just designed. So all of this data is generated data by the model that it's nice that then I'm able to test this way. So if I go to the API Center and if I refresh, I can see that I have also the order processing API. Okay, the catalog is in sync, and I can go and check different versions, the different definition, and from here I can open the API documentation. Okay, and I can also generate an API client using Kyoto to generate with C# or any other, or I can generate markdown documentation for my API automatically. But I will just show the documentation page that I have a nice interface that allows me also to test this API. Okay, so if I execute, I will see the same response, but in this nice interface that allows me to test my API as well, and to give the API to developers with the confidence that is working well, right? So I can then iterate and go into additional tests in order to make sure that my API is working as it should. So now that the API is working, I will continue this life cycle and publish the API. And Srikant.
Thanks, Alex. All right. So Alex just showed how easy is it to design a new API, to get a design rules, to build a new API, and to actually publish it both in API management and API center. What we are going to do is the next step in the process, which is secure the API. For this, we're going to use the applications feature. We just launched it in limited public preview. Applications enables API management gateway to authorize access using OAuth tokens. So you don't need a validate JOT token policy or validate Azure AD token policy. It's all done behind the scenes by the gateway. All you need to do is to tell us, the API managers need to tell us which products and which APIs have OAuth access enabled. And basically, developers will get a client application. They will use the client credential flow to essentially access the API. So we will actually go through that live. So I'm going to play the role of an API manager. So in this case, the first thing I will do is to open the e-commerce product, which Alex added my order processing API, and I will enable OAuth authentication. Then I'll go ahead and create a new client application. I will assign it. I will basically assign it to that particular product. This client application is what is going to be used by developers to essentially access the API. We will walk through Azure Copilot to create a policy. Alex showed the mocking policy. We're going to show a rate limiting policy that we will add to the order processing API. And then finally, we will close out with a quick demo of the developer portal and how to customize it right, in this flow. So let's start. So the first thing I will do as an API manager is to check that the API is well set up. So I'll go into the order processing API, and I will see all the operations. We'll focus on the list orders for now. So I'll go ahead and see that the mock policy is enabled. So everything looks good here. So I'll come back and check that the product has been added and the API has been added to the particular product. So I'll go into the e-commerce product. I'll check that the order processing API exists here. So that worked out pretty well. And then I'm going to enable OAuth. So this is a new feature I was telling about. So I'm going to say, okay, I'm going to enable OAuth authentication on this particular API. I'm turning off the legacy subscription key access. And then I'm actually see an application ID that has been created. So what we do behind the scenes is for this particular product, we create a Entra ID, which is the application ID that you see here. And now we will actually create a client application for the developer. So I'll go ahead and register a new application. I'll give it a name. Let's call it the vendor one app for now. I'll put myself as the owner. I will grant it access to specific products. I'll add some description. And then now this particular application is now assigned to this developer, who's the owner. In this case, it's me, who can log into the developer portal and see this particular application. And that's it. That's all that you need to do as an API manager to turn on OAuth authentication. We show here that the client secret is visible to the API manager as well. We also will show that how the API manager can see through the product details how the developer will be able to access this particular API, right? He'll have to retrieve the OAuth token and then call the API gateway endpoint. So that's the details we show here. And now we see that we actually just validate that when I go into the properties, I will go ahead and publish that particular product because now I want to make this product visible to my developers in the developer portal. So that's something that I will do. Now, this is the step where we transition to the API and just make sure that we add a mock. We have the mocking policy already, so we'll go ahead and add the rate limiting policy. So across all the operations, I'll call the Azure Copilot. I will make a quick request to add a rate limiting policy, and basically it should give me like a quick snippet of the XML. And I can copy that XML code snippet and add it to my policy. So this is what I'm going to do right here. Copy the rate limiting policy, and then I will just add it to my policy across all the operations. So what you just saw is how Azure Copilot makes it easy. In fact, when I first came to the team, for me, understanding these policies was difficult a year ago. So now I can use this to actually create policies. So it helps people like me quite a bit to create policies. Now I'll go ahead and publish the developer portal and make sure that all the APIs are visible to the developers. So first thing I'll do is I'll go into the managed APIM portal. I'll go ahead and customize this portal. So this portal provides several functionalities, like you can add custom HTML widgets. So I'll go ahead and open the developer portal, add a custom HTML widget, as in this case, I'm creating the Contoso marketplace portal. So I want to make sure that I have a HTML widget which talks about how the getting started guide for the sellers and solution providers is set up. I have different types of APIs to maintain the inventory, to ship, and to kind of have the catalog of items. So I'll go ahead and add different HTML widgets for all of them, just to kind of walk them through. And this is a quick example of a custom HTML code that I can create. How easy is it to add that to the current portal and then customize it very easily. And finally, as we go along, we will actually see how I can add custom pages. So I'll make some changes here. I can actually see how the different views look. So I can actually see when I publish this, how does it look for the developers, how does it look for my guests, and how does it look for me as an API manager. I'll go ahead and add some custom pages. I want to add a custom page around API guides. I see that is missing. So I'll go ahead and add a custom page here, which talks about the APIs and gives more overview there. And then I want to actually add a custom page on API status and add that to the site menu. So I'll go ahead and create a new menu item called API status. And I will point that to the custom page that I created. So I can go ahead and point that to the API status page and make it available in my main menu. So very easy to actually customize this portal, change menus, add custom pages, add custom widgets, and then go ahead and we'll go ahead and publish this portal. So API status page comes up. So here I've used a custom widget to bring all the information from the latest API status from the backend. So I'll go ahead and quickly publish this developer portal. And now developers can go ahead and access the API that Alex created, the order processing API, and it's already secure. So we'll go ahead and see what the developers would actually see on the other side in the portal. All right. So in this demo, we're going to log in as a developer. We're going to retrieve the application details. So we turned on OAuth on the product side, but now as a developer, we'll go into the developer portal, use the application that my API manager provisioned for me, and we're going to retrieve the token. We're going to securely access the API using the token. So we'll just do a very quick demo of that. So I logged in as a developer, see that the portal, customized portal is visible to me. I can see all the HTML widgets that I just set up. Custom widgets are all showing up nice. I have got the API status page up and running, the new page that I added. And then I'll go ahead into the applications tab. Here, I should see the application that was just created and assigned to me. I'll go ahead and see the product details. When I click on it, I can see all the products. I can see the application credentials. I can click into the product and see any of the APIs that are there in that particular product. I can see the schema definitions of that particular API that Alex defined. Now I'll go ahead and validate that the API is actually set up correctly. The schema is fine. I can download the specification here from for this particular API. So I'll go ahead and set up a quick test on this API. So I've got my client ID and client secret, which I just retrieved from the portal. I have the tenant ID and the scopes, scope of the backend product and the API that I need to access. So the first thing I do is to retrieve my OAuth token, which I set up here. And once I get the token, I will use the token to call the gateway. So two-step process. So let's go ahead and do that. Very simple. This is a simple PowerShell script. Of course, you can do it in multiple ways. So I'll go ahead and run the PowerShell script, and I retrieve the token and the mock response. I use that token to essentially call the gateway, and the mock response that Alex set up is what shows up here. Yeah, so that was what we just saw. Is we saw the end-to-end life cycle of building an API, designing it according to specifications. We saw how easy it was to secure it, publish it, customize the portal, and that finishes the end-to-end demo. And we saw that we could do that in less than a few minutes, right? And it's all compliant to the design standards, and it's all compliant to the policy set in the organization. So that's where the power of AI, the power of GitHub Copilot, the power of Azure Copilot really shows up. So Alex is going to now talk about monitoring. So what we showed so far was setting up the API and publishing it. Now we want to monitor and analyze it. So let Alex take over and talk about it.
Imagining that the API is already in production, right? And of course, the operations team wants to make sure that the API is running smoothly. And we have support for Azure Monitor, Application Insights, Grafana, and third-party tools for a while already. But we wanted to make the experience much better and more productive, both for developers and for operations team. So at Build, we have announced this site reliability engineering agent, okay, an AI agent, built on top of the existing data that we have from Azure Monitor, that allows us to do incident management powered by AI and continuous monitoring, okay, every information that we log in the Azure Monitor in order to identify specific patterns, okay? And with that, continuous monitoring, we can identify different incidents and remediate and resolve the incidents automatically, okay? So SRE agent is all about automating. This morning I was discussing with Srikant use cases. For example, imagine that you have an issue with a certificate, right? Or with some DNS configuration and the APIs are not being properly consumed. We know that a lot of downtimes are caused by DNS, but might be an integration with Key Vault or some other components. So having with this continuous monitoring, then it could automate, remediate actions for us to fix the issue automatically, and overall reducing the number of alerts that will go out to an operations team, right? Because nobody likes to be waken up at the middle of the night because something is down. So it's the ability for the agent to identify issues and to fix them automatically. This is a work that is still ongoing to make this integration with Azure API management. And in the sense that, of course, we don't focus just on Azure API management, we focus on the workload. We focus on the application itself that has different components, including APIs, right? So yeah, excited to see what will be possible in this. And not least important, right, to provide good insights about how the APIs are being used so that we continue this virtual cycle after monitoring to improve the discovery, the design, and go from there. And on these 10 years of product maturity, what we have learned is that customers, they like to have choice, okay? And there is no one-size-fits-all kind of scenario. So we have enabled extensibility in the API management through the gateway, supporting different policies, supporting different policy expressions. We have enabled extensibility on the management plane and also at the developer portal, okay? So we provide REST APIs on the management control plane and on the developer portal so that every customer and partners can build customized developer experiences to address their specific needs. Srikant in the demo showed a lot of capabilities that we have added to customize the developer portal, but by using the API, you can have a completely new experience built from scratch. And that's what partners like Pronovix and API Boost are doing, using these underlying APIs in order to allow them to build differentiated customer experiences.
So one of the first partners I wanted to talk about was API Boost. API Boost is also called Achieve Internet. They build developer portals. One of the things that they do very well is they focus on, if I want to, let's say, use case around, I want to localize the developer portal into French language. That's not something that we have today, but that is something that API Boost will provide. So that is one of the examples of an advanced customization that a partner like API Boost will show. Other features include ease of generation of documents, API documents using Markdown, and of course, making sure that the content is accessible from, let's say, have multiple API instances. We can combine the data from all of them and show that in one portal. So let's play a quick video of API Boost, and we'll talk about their capabilities in a lot more detail. I think the sound is connected, so let me go ahead and try that.
API Boost offers robust and flexible content management that goes far beyond integrated portals.
The sound is connected.
Want to try again?
Which one should I? Sorry. Oh, it's this one. Okay.
There is no jack.
Oh, there is no jack.
There is one. Oh, you don't have a jack?
No.
Okay.
So we will not have sound.
Okay. I'll just. So play it.
API Boost offers robust and flexible content management that goes far beyond integrated portals. API Boost Visual Page Builder allows you to create the perfect presentation for any content requirements. Extend your content management with customizable workflows, advanced theming options, dynamic content templates, and reusable components. API Boost ensures every piece of content meets brand and organizational standards. Localization is a core API Boost feature. You can quickly add support for multiple languages with just a couple of mouse clicks. Once configured, our localization feature provides complete control over the translation of the page content. API Boost's product catalog organizes products into intuitive, personalized categories so developers find what they need fast. Access groups can be leveraged to govern control of private products for internal teams, partners, or external users. Integrated approval workflows allow delegating approval processes to the appropriate people while also providing a full audit log of all interactions. API owners can review, ask for more information, and reject API access requests from developers. Interactive tutorials, detailed release notes, and user-friendly guides ensure developers have clear, accessible resources to build innovative apps. Security is at the core of API Boost with support for multiple SSO providers so that your employees, customers, and partners can authenticate with the identity systems that they already use. Together, this streamlined experience accelerates onboarding and drives API adoption. Empower your customers with a developer portal designed for growth. API Boost is available in the Microsoft Marketplace. Start your free trial today. Today's global.
All right. And finally, I wanted to introduce Christoph. Christoph, we want to talk about, Christoph is from our partner Pronovix, and I'll let Christoph talk about developer portals.
So I just checked and I have a problem. My video doesn't run. But I'll just I'll talk about the most important part, which is the story.
You have the mic?
Yes. Okay. And the demo gods. I had this working, and then the Wi-Fi. Let me try. Okay. Yes. So, advanced and custom developer portals for Microsoft Azure. So, we're Pronovix. We're a consultancy that specializes in developer portals. All of those dots that you see on the right, we do all of those things with developer portals. And for 10 years, we've been specializing in this. And the best way to see us as a managed service for developer portals. We're a boutique consultancy, so we can go anywhere where you need us to go to help with this. Okay. Yes. Good. Maybe you've seen some of our content. I don't know. Do you already know about the DevPortal Awards or any of the conferences that we organize? Yes. Okay. Let's try the other side.
It's a Mac.
Yeah. It might be the... Okay, does it work now? Maybe it's power?
Refresh.
Yeah. Normally... It might be the power for the adapter. It's not coming through. Because I can see it on the screen.
Yes.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh.
I think the slideshow is having an issue. Just put it in the regular mode. Oh. Yeah.
Okay. I'll show it like this. Sorry about this. We tested all of it before, but the demo gods. So, any of you know about the DevPortal Awards? No? You're the API the Docs conference? No? Not yet? So then some valuable resources for you. If you're working on using APIs as part of your differentiation strategy for your company, then really interesting resources to look at is the Developer Portal Awards, is an award that we organize every year. And later I'll also share a QR code for conference AI the Docs. That's happening 2 weeks from now that I have free tickets for you for as a special for the attendees here today. So, it's a connector? Let's try. I have my own connector. Yeah. Okay. So we work for for customers like Shell, where we've helped them to build a developer portal that helps to promote their APIs as part of their fleet cards and all the management solutions around that as a differentiator for their business. So once you've built all your APIs and you've seen all the work that the Microsoft team showed off, and you want to go outside and to actually build a developer community on the outside, or you have some weird organizational setup where you have like different parts of the organization that can't see each other's work, or you need some access control for these things, or you have other API management solutions that you want to combine together. All of these kind of use cases are things that we help customers with. BNP Paribas has 15 brands on top of our platform. So we've built a platform for them that they can use to create different instances for different brands in their organization. Vodafone worked with us to launch their API marketplace for their Camara APIs. I don't know if you're familiar with this. It's a new standard that's coming out to make the networking APIs available for people outside. So I was really excited when just under a year ago, we started talking with the Microsoft partner team about how we could help to create advanced business developers that help to developer portals that help with this differentiation. Some of the stories that I just showed, also for this ecosystem. Because right now in the Microsoft ecosystem, you have these two choices. Either you can like build completely custom on the inside, or you can use one of the out-of-the-box solutions. Now there's quite some customization that is already possible now with the latest evolutions. But if you need to go even further than that, like if you need to change approval workflows, or you want to add additional API management solutions or something like that, then you're kind of stuck with building yourself. And what we have seen happening with teams is that when you build yourself, you need a team of 6 to 12 people. And then even if you have a team like that, you don't always get to success. We've seen some teams that still struggle. And one of the biggest reasons I've seen is that teams typically start looking at developer experience as the first thing that they really focus on. And then afterwards they start thinking about automation. And then business value is kind of like an afterthought that only comes like way at the end of things. And this does not lead to success. If you really want to drive the usage of your APIs, and you really want to have a larger community that's working with your APIs, you need to focus on bright spots, business bright spots, like right from the start. And then developer experience and operational value come afterwards to drive long-term strategic value. This is exactly what we help customers with through a combination of a platform that can be heavily customized, and then also services like technical writing and UX services to help figure out like, okay, what are the personas in your community that you need to cater to, and what are the API products you can launch and bring into the market. So yeah, we do all of these services. Then the result is an open source portal that can be used for data sovereign managed service. So you can deploy this on-prem, you can deploy it on the clouds in an area near you. Yeah, the video, I can try if it works. No, I'm gonna skip that. I'll just highlight these 3 things that Shrikant told me that I should highlight. So localization, you've also seen that from API Boost. We can do any kind of documentation. We've done Markdown, DITA, even restructured text. Whatever you need, we can bring it into your portal. If your team is doing something arcane, we probably can bring it into your portal. And we can do really advanced theming also on top of that, approval flows and things like that. If you want to talk and maybe see a couple of case studies to make it a little bit more tangible without the demo, come and see me. I've got a couple of case studies with me. Kati is also here, we're always happy to talk. And then last but not least, if you want to learn more about the reality of AI, APIs, and documentation and developer portals, We've got this event happening in 2 weeks from now. It's online, so you don't have to travel for it. And this is a free access, and it's a valuable conference ticket. And I'll wrap it up here.